has returned, and David's ego is back to where it should be, on his shoulders. Welcome back to the Rant Network. This podcast hosted by David Solomon and myself, Stuart Brisgell, where we bring you unfiltered, uncensored conversation on a wide range of topics. This podcast is dedicated on expressing opinions, thoughts, and experiences to share ideas from a variety of perspectives and at least a very honest opinion. Join us as we dive into the latest news, pop culture, and so much more. From rants about absurdity of modern life, it's kind of hard to miss, and discussions on deeper issues affecting society. This rant, we got you covered. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this exploration into the crazy. David, it's nice to have you back from your little mini vacation, 14 days away from having to talk to me every morning. Damn, you're doing great.
Nat, thank you very much. It's good to be back. So, folks, listen, I got to tell you, I had one of these days I'm going to rant about this trip, but I'll talk about that another time. And it's not Stuart Styles rant in terms of terrible hotel service. It's more of a reflective trip, if you will, memorable, inspirational. But while I was out there, I got a glimpse of CNN International, and I like CNN International. I don't like CNN because CNN just likes to be the Trump bashing network. It seems to be them, and MSNBC just have to do that all day long. And while CNN International had a little bit about it, the truth is that they talk about the rest of the world and the United States' implication in the rest of the world. And Stuart, I got to tell you, people are not paying attention. Why? Because the fourth Trump indictment makes way more excitement than understanding the geopolitics that the United States is screwing up. It's the anniversary of the United States withdrawal from Afghanistan, and the fallout continues there as the Taliban continues to take even greater stronghold over the country and have ruined women's lives and have just returned the country to 12th century status as opposed to 21st century status. Bravo, Mr. Biden. Keep blaming Donald Trump for that one. But there's also two situations that are happening in parallel, both involving Iran in a weirdish way. One is that there are 5 American hostages, 3 that we know their names, 2 that they've not disclosed, are held in captivity in Iran. And in order to release them, the United States is asking South Korea to release billions of dollars of assets to Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is freaking out right now, going, don't you dare give a dime to this crazy regime whose only purpose right now is to blow up Israel, the United States, with their nuclear program. But Joe Biden doesn't care. If Israel was wiped off the map tomorrow, he'd be thrilled. Okay? He would be, because he could care less, because it's all about serving his interest. We saw what happened, Stuart, with Brittany Griner. He negotiated. He sent a war criminal, a guy who sold arms, so he can get a basketball player back for votes. Yep. He's doing it again, just for votes. It's 4 in 15 months. Now, on top of it all, in parallel, he's trying to counter China. Not a bad strategy. He's trying to counter China by negotiating with Saudi Arabia to normalize relations with Israel. We've seen what Israel has been able to accomplish with UAE and other countries with respect to after the Abraham Accords that Donald Trump helped to negotiate. But God forbid the Biden administration would go down the Abraham Accords path. Their only interest, Stuart, is just to be able to show everybody that Biden is just a world. He loves the world and he cares for the world. But the United States is losing its clout, Stuart, because China negotiated with Saudi Arabia to buy oil from Saudi Arabia with Chinese yuan and not US dollar, essentially weakening the American dollar. He is not paying attention. The American population is not paying attention, Stuart. And as you as a financial advisor, knowing how something that can happen thousands of miles away can have an impact on your pocket. Stuart, I've spent enough. What say you about Biden's foreign affairs?
Okay, well, first of all, you made some false statements.
Huh?
That Joe Biden has to wake up. Well, Joe Biden, please keep sleeping, because really that's all you really like to do. You don't like to get woken up in the morning when there's a world event, and you definitely can't be bothered to go to Hawaii to see, the death and destruction. Bidens have missed more international check boxes and more domestic check boxes than any president in history. Yet today in the news, you heard how phenomenal the Inflation Act is, and maybe I gave it a wrong name type of spin 1 year later. This administration internationally doesn't know which way's up. It's more concerned about, teachers calling you because your kid has a sniffly nose, and not that your kid wants to have transgender issues. Versus, the country is being ripped apart in every major city, from the robberies and gang styled robberies, in LA. This president is asleep at the wheel, and Janet Yellen is doing mushrooms in China. I mean, I don't mean mushrooms like, the ones that you and I get in a Chinese food restaurant. She's doing magic mushrooms in China. For Pete's sake, the government is gone bananas. And, it's kind of hard, and I got to be hopeful that the disaster that this administration is subscribing to is going to be reversed in another year. I do, however, think the damage being caused by this administration is immeasurable. Okay. For generations, we are going to pay the price of a government that targets political foes. I mean, Joe Biden isn't running this country. If you think he is, you're wrong. He's a teleprompter and a cue card away from pressing a nuclear football. And I'm sorry to all of our left wing friends. At some point, you got to understand the damage of going after political foes. Because you know what? I think that the Republican Party is even equally as guilty. They sit back, relax, and say, bless his heart, bless his heart. No one wants to do the job. Let me mind my pocketbook. Let me coast out my term. Let me get reelected. No one gives a shit about anyone in this country anymore. And it's no different in Canada, David. There you have an autocracy where King Trudeau thinks he's King Charles, right?
And Stuart, I miss you. I love you, but let's continue to go sideways on this topic. The topic here, what I wanted to bring up was the fact that the American population is not paying attention. It's not because the media won't let it. The media is too embroiled in this fourth indictment. Hillary Clinton goes on MSNBC and loves the fact that Donald Trump is getting crucified. Her and Rachel Maddow were even laughing, not even paying attention. But the point of the matter is that this is the problem right now with the media. The media has given you what it thinks you should be watching, and distorting a really serious problem. And that the United States, that was once a beacon of hope and power, is dying on a foreign scale.
But you're just giving me one example. I know, but I'm just on it. I know it's a convoluted subject, David, because there's so much tied to the ignorance of this administration. Well, they just want to pat themselves on the back, David.
Of course they do. They call it Bidenomics when in fact it should be something else. I mean, look, I get that. What I'm saying is, and I'm seeing it and talking to people, and I was in Europe and I was in Israel, and I have to tell you that people are actually very concerned out overseas that the United States, if the United States was to fall, as we are seeing right now, little by little, and you look at who's Russia, China, Iran, you see those powers, North Korea, really exercising its power. The world is worried because it has had a great run, democracy, ease, wealth, prosperity, you name it. But if China takes over and Russia takes over, we've seen what happened in Ukraine. We've seen the threat. I mean, listen, the vice president of Taiwan lands in the United States and China goes nuts. Does the Biden administration do anything? Of course not. This is my point. The point is that the United States, over the next 15 months, Joe Biden, you might call him a lame duck prime president, but the problem is that someone is running the show, and the State Department doesn't know what the heck it's doing in many ways. We see what Garland is doing with running the justice side. We see, Janet Yellen with the money. We see a lot of problems. What we don't see, though, is the media focusing on the problems. They're focusing on Donald Trump. that the only thing that should matter is that Trump is going to get a fourth indictment, that every Democratic public attorney is getting a major excitement, orgasm, call it what you want, by indicting a former president.
Listen, they're jerking each other off. They're like, I cannot outdo. All of these indictments are in extreme left wing states. The bottom line, David, is yes, I didn't really go off topic, but you need to understand, David, this is just dominoes. And again, when you have a president who doesn't know he's president of the United States anymore, it's a problem where he says, I don't know about, I believe Joe Biden that he doesn't know and has never been a part of a conversation with his son and his partners. He's fucking senile, David.
But still,
he is not running this government.
But we know he's senile, but that's not the point. The point
people have forgotten that this guy's been a liar in politics. He got caught red-handed in a presidential debate by making speeches. And everyone forgets.
But we know that the fact checkers aren't paying attention, and we know that the other media are ignoring so many of the facts, and they're letting Jean-Karine Pierre say whatever she wants, and we get all that. Period. What I'm raising as a flag, Stuart, is that on an international scale, people outside the United States are scared, and the American population and its media are focusing on the indictments. They're not focusing on the Americans.
But that was their goal. Their goal was to put something in front of a thirsty population with something that's going to deter them from watching normal news and staying up to date. They are being basically hoodwinked, like these kids going, ooh, yeah, Trump, ooh. They can't even get it.
There's so much love. There's so much excitement. I mean, you see CNN, you see MSNBC, and the amazing thing is, by the way, Fox too. If you look at the most recent ratings for these three, they're not good. People are not watching. They're tired of it because they're not getting the information they need. I brought up what I heard when I was overseas, talking to locals, talking to people who have asked me, thinking I'm an American and because I speak English. It's like, no, as a Canadian, I too am scared because if the United States continues to slip, then economically we're in trouble in Canada. Because when the United States sneezes, we catch a cold in Canada. Western Europe is in trouble.
That's my favorite expression, Dave.
But listen, Europe is in trouble. Asia's in trouble. The Middle East is in trouble. Australia's in trouble. South America's in trouble. If the United States does not reinforce itself, it's a problem. And this entire thing of going after sitting presidents or even going after Hunter Biden, it's tearing apart the United States. It's not helping in any way, shape, or form.
You know what? Hunter Biden should have been in handcuffs. You know what? I hope every single defense attorney says, I want a Biden deal. I want to get the same treatment that Pelosi got. Why are they being treated different? David, this is going to open up a whole new shitstorm. Suing attorneys for doing what they do. It is going to be a shit mess. And I assure you, David, they are going to stack the courts next because the Supreme Court is going to overturn a ton of shit. And then they're going to say, you see, now we need to stack the courts. David, this is a slippery slope for another rant.
Stuart, we'll save it for another rant. But the truth of the matter is, and I'll say it again, and this is where I started. Folks, there's a scary situation here for the next 15 months. And if the American population doesn't wake up, who cares who's the next president? There's a problem, folks.
David, that's all for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in and listening. Yes, David's back. The Rat Network. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation and gained some valuable insight. And yes, I do slip off topic, but it's all related crap. Sorry, David. We appreciate you for your support. Hope you'll join us next time for another thought-provoking conversation. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. You can always grab us on our website. You can grab us on all the verticals, unless some vertical decides that we're just too, David.
Yeah, anyway.
Straight.
On that note, good night, folks. Have a great afternoon, everybody.